Hey everyone, this is a series that I want to do for a while. This is my house, and on the back of our house we are doing a detached garage with a detached office. And I've been working really hard trying to figure out how to make that internet experience and that office experience the best that it can be. In fact, you can see over here, this is the restoration that we've got going on of the old shed. And I need to get internet from this part of the house, right here, all the way out there. And I want to keep my internet speeds and my connection as good as it can possibly be. So I've had to learn a lot of things along this journey. I've had to learn about fiber connections, the type of cat cables to use, different tools. And so that's something that I wanted to share, is how do you get good internet from your main building to an outbuilding and keep the performance as high as it can be. So I'll show you what the garage looked like before, I'll show you what the internet setup was before, and then we'll walk you through the journey of the whole thing. So I hope you enjoy this journey, hope you learn something, and I hope it's something that you can take away and apply to your builds and to your home office. So let's go. So let me give you a little bit of backstory. I know I already hinted on a little bit of what we're doing, but the core of it is that my office here is going to actually be moving to behind the garage. It's going to be detached from the main house. Overall, I wanted to keep the Wi-Fi network structure as consistent and fast as possible. So I had two main objectives. The first one is to keep performance up, and the second one is to also update the network in such a way that I can have proper device isolation for security purposes. With those two things in mind, how was I going to design the network and build the network so that I could actually achieve it? Since the house is essentially south of the garage structure, I had a couple of options. I could try to do a mesh network and bridge the gap between the two buildings wirelessly. I could also wire it. And so what were the trade-offs that I needed to make there? But we did decide that we are going to wire it between the two buildings. And so we're going to have access points in the house, and we're going to have access points in the garage. Trying to look around how to do this on the internet, there is a ton of material. If you look out on YouTube, Reddit, you do Google searches, you're going to find a ton of information about how to connect buildings and networks together. But you'll just see lots of questions and lots of generic answers, not a lot of walkthroughs of people doing it. So that's what I wanted to put together, is how did I actually implement this? And what were the pros and cons? Like, what types of cabling do we need? There's, a half dozen choices. What were the protocols that I wanted to put in place? What were the hardware choices that were available to do this, right? Reddit's a great resource for anybody who wants to get answers to their networking questions. I highly recommend it. But you're going to find, for every question, you're going to find an answer that says to go one way and an answer that says to go the opposite. So digging around, figuring out what we're going to do there. So I'm going to walk through the choices that I made to help address and mitigate some of the concerns that an outbuilding network introduces to your build. And there's been some great mentors along the way. I'd like to call out Network Chuck, Mac Telecom, among others, who on YouTube are constantly providing information to everybody to just consume about the best setups, the best protocols, security, install tips, and just helping to get information out there. And so I really relied on them a lot. I really appreciate their input. As we go through this video, we're going to cover tooling. We're going to cover how to run the wires in your house. We're going to cover different sort of connectors, keystone plating, setting up your network rack, which cables to run. A lot of these decisions are basic, but when you put them all together, it creates a pretty decent sized puzzle. And so trying to juggle all those things in your mind, as well as what does the rest of your topography look like in the building that you're doing, right? I mean, it's not usually just networking. So what other things do you have to consider? Join me as we go through this. The first video I'm going to do is going to show you how I went from, at the beginning of the pandemic in 2020, when my kids were home, when I was at home, and we were all trying to use the network together, how a single legacy router was just not cutting it anymore, and how we increased to newer technology and got bandwidth increased in the house so that we could all function, and then how that's evolved into a much cleaner network structure, a nice network rack with the right components and right tools to build the performance and security that we want. Thanks for joining me. You can watch the next video of the network setup here. I hope you find it interesting. And then as we start boring and drilling on the structure, I'll give you an idea of what the layout's going to be, and then I'll show you how I can actually go ahead and do that and some of the tools that I've gotten to make that work. I look forward to going on this journey with you. Thanks for joining with me. If you like this, hit the subscribe button, and when I release new videos, you can stay on top of it. All right, take care. Have a good week.